T Mizzle, what's going on with you, man? Welcome in. You know the vibes. It's Mailbox Sports on an off day. We got to give a small but enthusiastic shout out. I guess to the whole team. T Miles, don't know if you follow him, but I guess we'll give a small shout out to the Chicago Bulls. With much love to Monas Buzelis. Hoping Modest can go ahead and establish himself as one of those ones. Give me a little bit of vigor, vim, a little bit of drive, optimism, even simple motivation to watch him. So, like I said, I don't know if you follow the Bulls, but today we gonna see red today. See if they can go ahead and do what's needed to be done. But with that being said, you see what's on the screen. Today's cut up for us is what I would classify as shattered illusions. Oftentimes, we believe in all of the glitz and glamour that happens amongst the NFL and NFL athletes, professional athletes in general, and at some juncture in time, we unfortunately get to wrap our minds around the not so spectacular or glamorous aspects of said life. And in that, we talk about former NFL. I can classify him as a star. Maybe not a superstar, but for a brief moment in time, a very known name. And so we review today Doug Martin. Smell the roses. How we doing, Miss Raquel? And we have reviewed Doug Martin not necessarily because of his athletic career. We will get to a brief breakdown of some of the things that quite possibly may have led up to this unfortunate situation. At the same time, we do want to understand the crossover between mental health, sports, and traumatic brain injury. And the mailbox can be opened in a multitude of ways when we talk about how those particular situations might transpire. And so today we try to dig as far as we can into some things that were known or reported allegedly about the untimely death of Doug Martin. We'll get a backstory to it, and we go through my elementary grade school slideshow, as we might call it. So at any given time we got any comments, we will stop to kind of parse over some of the things that I might think might be important. But before that, like I said, we will give you a little breakdown of his professional career. So let's go ahead and get into it and see if this actually works out for me, everyone. Bear with me, as they say.
Here's Martin, straight ahead. Doug Martin. And Doug Martin is going to score in his hometown. Second down and 9 from the 33. They go to Martin. Martin off the left side, breaks a tackle, and here's Martin again. Inside the 20. And Martin will get in for the touchdown. He gained 143 yards on 9 carries in the third quarter. Picks up where he left off. Breaks a tackle. Trying to outrace the defender. And he will. "70 yards this time."
So if you do not know some of the highlights, I played fantasy sports, so I am familiar with some of those runs, specifically because they did serve me well in terms of competition. But those are highlights of his career that may not necessarily correlate with the lowlights or some of the things that may be the repercussions or things that are correlated, I should say, to what I would classify as an unfortunate demise of sorts. So Doug started out as a running back at Boise State. Small school at that time, but Doug made a lot of headlines. Ultimately, Boise State is a lot more notarized in terms of the collegiate game. It did have a heyday, and it was around his time and Kellen Moore's and so on and so forth. But nonetheless, his career allowed him to be a first-round pick, 31st overall of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers back in 2012. That makes me feel dated. That was 13 years ago, everybody. So Doug did, at the end of his rookie deal, sign a 5-year, $35 million contract with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which was later voided by the Buccaneers because he tested positive for Adderall. So, first, my question would be, why was Doug tested positive for Adderall? And the why would be, what would be your particular reason for being in possession or of use? We'll touch base a bit more on the whys of that, but why is a good question. And if you have not hit the like button, why? So we hit that like button for me. Go ahead and share the content. Let somebody know that know somebody. But ultimately, that voided contract did result in Doug ending his career in his hometown. We saw in the highlight a couple of times where Doug actually had some touchdown runs in his hometown against the Oakland Raiders. He later went on to play for the Oakland Raiders for a season, and so that was his last season in the league. Forget how many seasons Doug played. I want to say he had an 8-year career, so do the math on that one, and we'll get into some of the things that are in the report. So Oakland police said they will call for a possible break-in at the 1100 block of Ettrick Street between the Oakland Zoo and Lake Chabot golf course. My apologies. At about 4:15 a.m. on Saturday morning. According to news release, OPD say they received simultaneous calls about a person in medical distress believed to be the same person in the break-in, involved in the break-in. So let's try to break that down. Oakland PD gets a call. Somebody is involved in a break-in. They also get a call about somebody being in medical distress. Allegedly, in this report, that person is synonymous and one and the same. So at that particular time, when you have a call about medical distress, which I don't understand why it went to the police, I would like to know at what juncture did the police who got this duplicitous report, when did they call in the medical authorities or professionals, I should say, to i.e. paramedics, EMT, whoever would have been available, so that they can in tandem diffuse the situation, if in fact there was a situation, and draw the parallel that something might be actually more, what's the word I'm looking for? There may be a more alarming reason that person was involved in a break-in as opposed to it being malicious or nefarious in any way. So I don't know that help arrived at the same time. But my question will be, if it did not, why was the call for medical attention not sought out by the police, if not by whomever reported the medical distress in the first place? A bit confusing to me in that regard, because I would like to know exactly how you as a professional could understand that a possible medical issue was being in tandem reported with a crime, so that there may be something that is amiss. Anyhow, I digress. It does speak to the fact that it says feeling overwhelmed and disoriented that Saturday morning. Doug fled his home during the night and entered a neighbor's residence 2 doors down, where he was taken into custody. So this break-in happened in his neighborhood. So it wasn't like he wandered very far. Can't tell you if he was having some sort of a episode. But I do know that it would be totally abnormal, Erica. How are we doing today? It would be totally abnormal for me to understand that a medical distress was sent out along with a police report of a break-in when this is in his neighborhood. So this is somebody he's totally familiar with. This is somebody he may see on a day-to-day. I wouldn't believe this is a very large community, so it's somebody that I would think the whole community is totally aware of. And so, yes, both the authorities and medical attention should have been sought out, but my wonder is how close in proximity those were, if in fact, if he's feeling overwhelmed and disoriented, and not certain how his family, let's give them some accountability in this as well, if they were awake or awoke, however we want to term it. I'm not necessarily sure right now. Why did they not report this sooner? Perhaps we'll get into further things to see in the report if they actually did indeed get into said reports. But let's talk about this family. Family says that Doug, 36-year-old former running back, battled mental health challenges that profoundly impacted his personal and professional life. So that leads me down the rabbit hole of the genesis, or at what point did these mental health issues present themselves? What were the mental health issues specifically? Because there has been no particular release as to what, if any, clinical diagnoses Doug received in the time, I guess, before playing career, during, or post. At least nothing I was able to find, but based on the earlier report that Doug had a contract voided for Adderall. Adderall is a drug that's utilized for many different things: narcolepsy, attention hyperactivity deficit disorder. My apologies, ADHD as they call it these days, and a couple of other things we might be able to touch base on. But what mental health issues are things that I really would be curious as to find out are the things that stand out most when his family indicates that he battled mental health challenges. And I would like to know what those were, how long he battled those, and what was being done about said issues, if in fact those are things that impacted his personal and professional life. If we see those symptoms in people that we have an affinity for, is that person being resistant, combative? Are they showing any signs of erratic behavior, any manias, any depressive episodes, quite possibly responding to any kind of internal stimuli? A vast amount of things could be going on. Could he have suffered some traumatic brain injury taking a hit during his playing career at Boise or in the pros, or as young as Little League, Pop Warner, and things of that sort? Tackle football is not something that starts at a given age in terms of levels. Once you put the pads on, tackling is something that is expected and taught, just like every other aspect of the game. And so you wonder, just like in the pros, they are guilty at times of having improper tackling or what we would deem as illegal hits. And how many of those illegal and legal hits could have possibly exacerbated a pre-existing mental health condition? Or could these particular hits and things like that, maybe the lifestyle lived, could all those things have possibly, what's the word I want to use, become the stepping off point for when these mental health issues would arise? You know, you can look at things like certain mental health issues are not onset until, your mid-20s or what have you. Schizophrenias and things like that are typically those types of issues, and there are a multitude of ways in which they break that down, from schizoaffective disorders and so on and so forth. So you do wonder, at what point were these mental health challenges addressed, acknowledged, specified, and treated, or if they ever were. Because if they never were, and he continued on to do the things that he has done throughout the course of his career, because that's the only thing he's possibly known to do as a pathway to being a professional, then we can only wonder if, in fact, he had a lifestyle of alcohol use, if he had any drug use combined with any treatment that he may have been receiving. You can counteract all medications that you are being prescribed with the use of alcohol, tobacco, drugs, so on and so forth. So you do want to try to understand where these particular things actually came into existence. And so you do want to try to get to the root of it before you get to the conclusion as to why his particular situation ended this way. T. Miles, you say you think Clarissa got a mental health issue. Okay, so T. Miles, not to deviate too much, and I understand, a lot of head trauma is suffered in boxing, not to mention the streets and the environment in which Clarissa honed her skills was vastly different than a Layla. Layla was a privileged child that had the best of the best. The other is what we would call, for lack of a better term, somebody who had a less fortunate lifestyle, and they did a lot more scrapping to get there. And some of that scrapping may have come along with some bad habits, some unpolished communication, and some pent up need for attention or adulation in ways they never received. Love, respect, comfort, acknowledgement. Those are things that oftentimes we don't get in our community, and they can at times cause you to have a profound setback in terms of your social development. So I wouldn't necessarily call it a mental health issue per se, but to also paint the picture, Layla is more my age or possibly a bit older. So at this point, a 47-year-old, 45-year-old, whatever Layla's age is, I don't think she in physical condition to deal with Clarissa these days, but I digress. Let's get back to it. A plea for help. So it's alleged that, according to a statement released Monday, his family were actively seeking medical assistance for him and had contacted local authorities for support on Saturday. So reading this would give me the inclination that his family would be the ones that reached out to the local authorities for support. So could they possibly have reported a break-in as well? I would think so. Maybe because of the disoriented state in which he left the house. They may have been concerned for where he was going. Same time, it does still point to the question of how did they not call in mental health professionals or some ancillary medical assistance to go along with the police. Like, the police are not the end-all be-all in that situation. And if you think that he is disoriented, to say the least, Doug, while he's only, I believe, 5'9", he was well over 200 pounds. You can see the build that he has right there. He was not a little guy in terms of his physical ability. Muscle Hamster was his nickname, even one that he begrudgingly took on or even liked. So he wasn't a little dude. And so I don't think you call in the police alone with a guy like that when you say that he's disoriented and kind of not being alert and oriented times three. If all three of those things are not happening, and it may even be four these days. I haven't read up on the DSM-5 because it was the DSM-4 when I studied mental health. But you realize that there can be many things manifesting themselves right then. He could not be on medication. He could, like I said, be mixing those medications with alcohol and be in a state of inebriation, which totally renders those meds useless. And at his physical state, what was the mental health issue? Was it diagnosed? Was it being treated? Because they may know a bit more than anybody else. And that in itself lends itself to them knowing that potential danger could be at the forefront if he were to get anywhere outside of the family or even within the four walls that they have as a house. So kudos in some regard for you addressing the fact that he needed mental assistance. But I still have to wonder how or if you did anything to actually seek this medical assistance for him, and in what capacity were you trying to seek out this assistance? Because like I said, they were actively seeking medical assistance, but in what way? Did we not think that the EMTs and everybody else were at least able to de-escalate and have a better or less threatening disposition to start with? And they can, in tandem with the police, maybe coerce Doug to get the medical assistance that you guys would seeking, maybe quite possibly overnight committal, a 72-hour. Was it 304 B 204? I forget the terminologies. Don't work in mental health sadly anymore. But in a lot of ways, you do want to try to get and peel back the layers to how and what actually transpired before we get into this particular situation. Because once you get to this point, we obviously can already surmise that it's going to escalate, only because, if no other reason, he is going to be seen as a hostile threat. His physical build does not lend him to be non-threatening. He does, in some ways, fit the description because he is of a brother. And if we look at it, the neighborhood that he was in was a golf community. I would not assume, could be wrong, that many people that look like us lived in said community. So the cops, when they arrive, would not see him as the neighbor Doug, but they would see him as a, albeit short in stature, a hulking menace. And those types of things could escalate before you know it. And at that point, you kind of wonder, you want to know the whole picture. And hopefully we'll get more details to dig into so that we can totally understand the last days and where they started at. Because we have to understand that there was a origin story to this well before we get to this particular tragedy. And so when we speak of the last days, like I said, while the officers responded to the alleged break-in, and they were attempting to detain him, and so, like I said, the disposition or the temperament of the officer is going to be different than the healthcare professional, and we wonder exactly how they attempted to detain him, because it already alludes to it being a brief struggle occurring. After he was taken into custody, he became unresponsive. So, he was disoriented before he left home. He gets into a tussle with law enforcement when he is 2 houses down from said home. This tussle is while they're trying to get him detained, and after he was taken into custody, he became unresponsive. So I wonder to what degree or to what severity of difficulty, what level of difficulty I should say, did this particular detainment actually take? Because for him to become unresponsive, some sort of adrenaline, a shot of adrenaline may have in fact overtaken his heart. So let's delve into maybe some contraindication of some medications being taken, or illegal drugs, perhaps. You never know. I don't want to speculate too heavily in this young man's demise, so forgive me for the inference, but there are only so many thought processes or hypotheses that I may be able to come up with that would lead him to being unresponsive. And I would think that to be more so cardiovascular in the lack of response. And so with that lack of response, I wouldn't think that if it is cardiovascular, steroidal or something that would increase the adrenaline so much that it would constrict the blood vessels from getting the necessary oxygen or blood flow that's necessary. And so that's why I get into the other potential alternatives, only because there are but so many things, and the autopsy will be at our disposal at some point soon, I believe, hopefully. So Lee does report that Martin was having some problems in the back of the police report because OPD said paramedics were called. Martin was taken to a hospital where he was later pronounced dead. So, after being taken into custody, so only in a cop car. So my assumption is in the back of the car, he became unresponsive. They called the paramedics at that point, when I think in some ways the paramedics should have been there to start, because they might have a bit more mental health training than the guys who were there. And we speak about the accountabilities of both sides. Like I said, the family, if the only people you call was the police and not the paramedics as well, then we did a disservice to Doug in that way, because you have to have a preconceived outcome, or at least have a bevy of outcomes that would possibly transpire before making that call. And what things could we do that are to counteract the cons, because there are going to be pros and cons. And I think in this instance, by them saying that the paramedics were called by Oakland police, that would lend itself to me to believe that it was not called, in fact, by Doug's family. And that may have rendered itself to be a detriment to Doug, because upon arrival at the hospital, like I said, that's where the report comes in of his untimely passing. So how do we get these particular people involved? The aftermath in that, obviously, as they investigate, per Oakland police policy, the officers involved in the incident have been placed on paid administrative leave. The death is being investigated by the Oakland Police Department's Homicide Section, Internal Affairs Bureau, and the Oakland Police Commission. So the Community Police Review Agency and the Alameda County District Attorney's Office are also looking into this. So as you can see, there are multiple layers of opportunities for them to try to find out exactly what happened. I'm not sure what they classified the death as. I do understand that they still are under investigation before they can pronounce it to be anything natural, unnatural, provoked, so on and so forth. But a lot of people looking into those things in California, and we await the opportunity to look into that. But while we wait further information on that particular situation, we do understand that things like CTE is something that could happen while playing football. It typically happens in, I believe, linebackers and linemen. They do the most, what we would classify as a car crash hitting. Real short contact, a lot of bursts, heavy hitting with a lot of sizable people. At the same time, when you are a running back, you are battered and tackled upon multiple times by these large men. CTE symptoms and progression of early symptoms often begin years or decades after the trauma. So his career, he's 36. His career has been over for quite some time now. And in the midst, his family, like they say, he has dealt with that in his social and professional career. Maybe towards the end of his career or something, those things were pronounced. Maybe not. But it could involve memory loss, confusion, impaired judgment, impulse control problems, aggression, depression, or anxiety. Now, while delirium or state of confusion, I believe, was what the disoriented, my apologies, was what they did right there. When you're disoriented, you could be in a state of confusion that could be due to memory loss. And his impulse control was at a heavy deficit when we thought to break and enter into a home, no less a home 2 doors down from ours. So that's the impaired judgment. Why? Quite possibly anxious or depressed when he fled, when he did leave his home, and the aggression was evidence in, what do you call it, the detainment. All of that speculative, but those all do give you some evidence as to things that could be problems of CTE. And forgive me for being most ignorant, as I need to totally introduce the subject because it's not coming to me right now. Chronic traumatic encephalopathy. Encephalopathy. Who knows? We're going to break this down. Yep. Encephalopathy. My apologies. Encephalopathy. Top of the teeth, tip of the tongue, top of the lips. Get my voice and diction on. We got to get some things better out here. Chelsea, you say, I was actually watching an interview with Brett Favre on this. He thought a concussion was anytime you blacked out. Doctor explained concussions anytime he had ringing in his ears. Yeah, and so like his little tinnitus or whatever that he thought having a bell rung. That's why they called it that back in the day, Chelsea. And they didn't know that they was having a concussion. Those, like you said, those bell, that ringing or so on and so forth was happening in his ear. So at that point, it's just like you really do wonder if he was experiencing any of those symptoms. If in fact he had something that was pre-existent to that right there. So Top Pro, if you just coming in, hit the like button. We talking Doug Martin. We are talking, do we suspect total mental health playing an issue into what was going on with him, Ty Pro? His family reports that he at times suffered from let's go back just to mental health challenges is the term that they use throughout his professional and social career. And so I wonder at some point, were these pre-existing mental health issues something that was a product of football, or were they something that was pre-existent to football and exacerbated by the fact, like I said, his contract was voided because he wasn't allowed to use Adderall. And so if we think about that, this is some of the things that Adderall works on, the mechanism of action. The pharmacological action, increased release of dopamine and norepinephrine. It blocks the reuptake of these neurotransmitters and increases their concentration in synaptic gaps. So it gives a sense of happiness because it does give out temporary or intermittent bursts of norepinephrine and dopamine. So it increases your dopamine levels to not have you be in a depressed or a lack of focus right there. It enhances signaling in the brain regions controlling attention and behavior. So just as I alluded to, the boosted spirit gives you a heightened sense of concentration so that you're not in such of a aloof state. Zombie-like for some people like that. Increased alertness, improved focus and concentration, reduced impulsivities. That's where the hyperactivity comes in terms of why they would use Adderall for persons with ADHD. The impulsivities are things that may lend themselves to you being in more trouble. And so you want to reduce those things, but not put them in a level of inactivity. At the same time, some of these meds can do exactly what you're trying to counteract. For example, yes, it may help out with the body being alert and more attentive, but at times, for certain people's body types and body chemistries, it may make them a bit more sluggish. They may feel more zombie-like and robotic, and it may preclude them from wanting to actually use these medications. You wonder if he was ever prescribed medications in his youthful days, and because of stereotype, ridicule, his mother, anybody else who might have not totally got him into taking those meds, being in his therapies, as much as the playbook, so on and so forth. Football is the focus, and so maybe we do what we got to do so that we can get where we need to be. And so you wonder about the Adderall use or what have you early on, and that he was using it for a controlled advantage because it could be used as a PED. And so we'll give you some FDA or medical uses for Adderall. It says attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD as I referred, the primary use in the treatment of ADHD in children 6+, adolescents and adults. It's supposed to help improve focus, attention span, impulse control, and it reduces the hyperactivities that I alluded to. We already talked about how it works, and your typical dosings would start with a 5 to 10 milligram dose once or twice daily. That could vary by age, formularities or what have you in terms of your body chemistry and makeup. And the use of it would treat excessive daytime sleepiness in a person that had narcolepsy. It would help the patient stay awake during the day, allegedly. It improves their alertness because that's what we're trying to do on both sides. But we do know people that misuse those. When I was in undergrad, I know people who tried to use those things for a study drug. Study drugs ain't what you're supposed to be using anything for. But they actually get off on those types of things right there when you want to try to use things to help you concentrate when you don't have a formal diagnosis to begin with. But the misuse is something that Doug could have been utilizing it for. And it could have actually been something prescribed and that you discontinued use because of stereotypes affixed to it. Chelsea says there's actually another player that I read on as well who had problems that they confirmed brought on by Philip Adams. A doctor and his grandchildren? That's crazy. George said he took it once and kept him for nearly 48 hours straight. George said, man, bro, that's like, in my head, that's like some booger sugar right there then. And then, like, I wonder, some people, the way people even take these things, and they're doing inappropriately when you are, like, snorting these pills. Like, what pill bottle ever tells anybody to please crush before snorting? Not one. So I don't even know the people that are, like, taking these orally and doing it. Like, and see, T Miles, when I was like 22, I say, let's go with 22. That is when I started to notice the D-boys and, as y'all call them now, the YNs start to go out on their own and start to look more like what they used to sell to. When they started with the Perks, the Addies, all the syrups and everything like that. Like, you started to do more things than you sold. And it was like to the point where you couldn't even partake in nothing that was going on because you don't know what they did to it before they get to you. So I think the culture of the use of pills and things for reasons that they have absolutely no medical or medicinal prescription for is rampant. I think obviously we know it leads to addiction. Could this have been something that Doug was addicted to? Could it have been something that he needed? Was it something that he was using to help him close the gap and extend his career? They say that the shelf life of a running back is short. I would think that he would use maybe some sort of hormone or what have you to help him to be able to, like, physically rehab. But, to have you take something that is supposed to be more of a psychological type of medication would be a bit more why. It's going to be the continuous question for me right there to understand why you were ever taking that. Is it correlated to what is going on now? And if not, could it be something like CTE that was not actually, what is the word I'm looking for, properly diagnosed or noticed in some regard? And so your family may have had a very rudimentary way of understanding that you were not well, but in some ways still the breadwinner. So if he's still a breadwinner and I get him committed somewhere, is he still a breadwinner And if he's not the breadwinner, do we got to leave the lap of luxury? So was his health top pro? So dead as you just said something that's serious right there. And I don't know if you're a part of the Discord, but we always going when we do have serious topics that people want to be a part of or unserious topics, we gonna get the Discord out here for you guys just so that people can join in. Give me a moment. I want to drop the Discord link again because I don't know if it came up. Yeah, Chelsea. When I used to be a Twitch streamer, I used to have a Discord. Now that I stream on YouTube, it's just as imperative, I think, to start to try to be inclusive, in a communal way. Otherwise, I'm gonna be real. Scott Spagnola, welcome in. Thank you for joining the Postal Gang. Give me a moment, everybody, as I get this in here. I mean, but like you said, Top Pro, I never even wanted to use Tylenol or anything to that degree when it comes to, I don't want to be addicted to any of that. I think I might have an addictive personality or what have you. Tylenol, threes, none of that. We try to do, I walk about 8 miles a day. I'm up and down stairs. I'm in and out of a truck. Still got to walk the dog when I get home. It's a myriad of things that get to go down. And the hope is that we always going to have some level of health where I don't have to be dependent upon some sort of pill like that could take me down, because I don't have positive thoughts about them. And I try to do things that may not include it. I do want to, however, involve myself a bit more at this older age in sports still. What sport, I'm not certain. Obviously, as an older guy, I still want to play. I want to play a little golf, y'all. Don't get me wrong. We got to play it. But same time, stream on both Twitch and YouTube. Also, I have never been on. I don't have a TikTok, Chelsea. That's been the one social media that several people have actually told me to get on. I wouldn't have known specifically about it. And if anybody got anything to say about this particular thing right there and they want to jump in the chat room, let me know and I'll open up the chat for us. I started out talking predominantly about sports on YouTube and not in the same way. I mean, on Twitch, I should say. Twitch is a lot more laid back in the capacities of the social construct of it and everything else. So, we might actually have a bona fide discussion. But I may be able to have a karaoke day. I got a lot of people that like to be a bit more social, have some cocktails, sing some songs, including myself. Maybe not even the cocktails. But at most times you do get to veer away from a serious light and have more of a familial type of thing there. Like what I would imagine a Patreon is how I could correlate Twitch in terms of how they go. I do live in a very walled domicile, and so those walls get in the way of ultimate connectivity. And while I am a hardwired person, I do not want to drain the amount of internet sourcing that it would take for me to multi-stream. And multi-streaming on Twitch and YouTube, which I do at some point think I want to, and I might look into some different streaming equipments that would allow me to do that. If you know any of them, besides Restream, I think I heard of that one. So anything else that allows me to multi-stream, Chelsea, feel free to let me know. But fencing, Ty Pro. I mean, I like basketball, but I think I'm too old for that shit these days. We really gonna stay into a. You love Restream? Okay, I'm gonna look at. I'll look into Restream. Golf is something that I'm gonna try. I really wanted to try out boxing. A lot of my frat brothers are into Brazilian jiu-jitsu right now. Well, I should say right now. They've been into it for years. But they are into that right there. And see, George, like, hey, look, I be looking for 35 and older leagues these days, right? And I found one. And then I think about it. And I'm not being funny when I say this. I found a 35 and older league. That would mean, by proxy, I could possibly be the oldest person on the team by 8 to 9 years. Very easily. And Top Pro, I like Twitch. The thing about Twitch is I might need to. Okay, so people do reaction channels and everything on YouTube. I might need to approach Twitch that way because I have not found the audience that necessarily appreciates sport. Or maybe I didn't necessarily dedicate myself totally to creating a niche to be built around nothing but sport. Nor do I think at times it may be a diversified thing. And looking at Chelsea's page, she is a lot more diversified in sport. I do give a lot of short attention to other things besides Chicago sports, but the crux of it would lend itself to the place that I know and what I think about. And so that gives me the passion or the veracity to even read up on it, speak about it, and things like that. And see, George, that's what I'm saying. On Twitch, the kickback is real, the turn up. You see what I'm saying? I'm on Twitch, for example. I am moving into I'm on Twitch. You see what I'm saying? So I ain't OG, but Unk is a whole different lane, and the way in which they vibe on Twitch is not something that I'm into, and I'll be totally candid with anybody. I don't think it's nobody on YouTube's platform that truly only does it for the love of streaming. I'm somebody's grandfather. We still got ambitions that supersede being the mailman. I love the secondary aspect of having a job that is career oriented in terms of what it renders me. Nonetheless, didn't go to school at all to be the postman and shit. And so you understand, like, Twitch is built on donations and donations alone, unless you're a partner or something like that. And they requirements are a bit strenuous. Like, over here, watch time is the hardest thing for me. But what watch time tells me over here is that at some point I need to find my rhythm to be more entertaining and diverse in the way in which I present sport. Because otherwise, your watch time will be slow and progressive. Like right now, I'm probably about like 20. I'm less than 30 subscribers away from 500. But if you become a bit more entertaining in some ways, I'm assuming, and I can't say that because I watch a lot of sports channels and they boring as hell to me. They're informative, which is what I want. I want sports information. I don't know that I want sports entertainment unless I want to watch Unk and Ocho. But so in that regard, it's always crazy. ChatGPT. I'm Postman 1914 on that platform. It used to be on all platforms, but since we are transitioning to Mailbox Sports, a lot of things moved out. And Erica, that is the ultimate understanding or underlying reason for the transition to YouTube. One, and it's funny, like seriously, nothing that had to do with sport except for watching people that don't do anything about sports. Like I told you, I started watching Theo Coop or watching shorts of Coop, and it got me to watching some of the episodes. And through watching some of those episodes, once I kind of I probably watched Coop for about 4 or 5 months. Like I'll be forthright. I'm at work when Coop is on, so I usually don't watch him a lot. But he got me to watching a lot of different extensions of things. That's how I ever heard of Kevin Samuels, Kendra G, SBC, and so on and so forth. But when I get to find that it's a more mature or older type of a crowd, whether it be in mentality or age, gives me more of an inclination to one, be here. Two, once I learn how the algorithm works in itself, you got to do what you got to do to get yourself in the algorithm. And what I'm going to do is continue to talk about the things that give me some sort of informative opportunity to be me, Erica, as we might say. I'm slowly, like, and you see, you talking about Auntie Pumpkin Spice. Y'all talking about Aunt, yeah, and for real. In some circles, you are Aunt at 35, all damn ready. That's crazy by itself to think at 35. But I had uncles. Well, I only got one uncle, and he was 30. He was in his 30s, and I thought that motherfucker was aunt. So, you know, I'm grateful for the way in which I run into people, and you know, even through SBC, watching both of those guys played sport or coach sport, and I got a resonation of sort with how they used to do things. Like when I used to see them up there with Serge and Bangadaya and all them, everything like that. Like they just chopping with their boys, and me and my friends used to sit around and talk about sports all the time. And so I was like, me and my frat brothers gonna get back to chopping. Most people's adult lives don't have it be that way, where Arizona is a vastly different time zone than Ohio. And so we don't always have the same alignment when it comes to time to have those friendly conversations. But I always thought about sport from the aspect of I'm in many chat rooms every day, and I could never, I could never engage as appropriately as I would like to, being just a fan of the page. And so it got me to, one, understanding that I had access to a chat room already, streaming on Twitch and things like that. So at that point, the light bulb comes on that you can live stream, you can talk about it from a fan's perspective, and you can also allow other fans to do so along with you, because you got the technology to do so. Whether or not your know-how is all the way there, that's up to me learning and developing things. But I digress on that one. So I think Coop and SBC do live streams where you can replay games and still enjoy. And you see, for example, right there, those types of things are why I thought about in talking sports, that things like this particular engagement for Doug Martin can give an opportunity for you to enjoy a replay of something. Because I don't think that sport, unless you break it up into sections and somebody is actually like a diehard of a particular fan base or what have you, I don't think they necessarily go back and totally watch as much of it. And so that's why, as you know, I understand that some people are able to just kind of like listen and, do what they do in the background, or have me in the background type things. Sometimes Sunday is the day that typically people are all watching football, so it gives me the best opportunity for hyper engagement and learning how to be on the algorithm's brain, for lack of a better term. Still a development process, but I always want to be able to develop content that is going to give people the opportunity to want to watch it, respond to it, be engaged, because I think that's where it starts. If you just watching it, and I don't care if I got one person in chat, if you're getting no engagement from the chat, if nobody hitting the like button, if nobody is giving comments at the end of the day, and you got 7 messages for an entire hour chat, rethink the strategy in terms of the delivery. But at the same time, when I have people around that I would constitute as being realist or objective in the way in which they lend criticisms, the emails, the direct messages in the Discord and everything else would give total opportunity for me to improve upon the things that can be done, should be done, will be done. I ain't realized me and Coop grew up on different platforms the same year. And see, that's what I'm saying. Okay, even with those things like that. For example, and I got a question for the chat while we talking about that, Chelsea. In 2020, a lot of sports YouTube pages, what I noticed, they all started around that era. That was around the pandemic, 2021, so on and so forth. And what I was not able to do that everyone else was able to do in that time was quarantine. There was no quarantine for the post office or whatever. The mailman was still walking every day. And so not only did I not think about it until years later, because it just wasn't something that I was very interested in doing in terms of streaming. Wasn't a live stream or content creator. And it wasn't into divulging much of my real life per se, if you want to look at it that way. At the same time, there are things about my real life that I think may be interesting to other people, just not to me. For example, what we think about the idea, because I am still in the opportunity of trying to capture watch time and trying to do so in a way that gives somebody entertainment value. Should I ever consider in the near future live streaming or like in real life stream while I'm at work, meaning while I am being the mailman? Not sports related. Maybe we still can have conversations about sports topic if anybody would care to, but just a weekly walk with the postman, a ride along of sorts, a walk with me. We'll workshop the title. Who knows? But body cam up. Go ahead and walk these streets. Maybe an hour or so, 30 minutes an hour on one of my better situated streets or what have you, something like that. Something that looks nice out here, visually appealing. Maybe the other parts of it. Y'all let me know what we think about that right there. No. First, we step kids and we locked in the basement. Secondly, I'm a union steward for my station, George. I try to keep myself abreast of the stipulations behind us live streaming and doing things that might bring reproach upon the post office. I'm in a Greek letter organization, and one of the first things that you get to understand that maybe should be taught to you in a different way, you don't bring reproach upon yourself or your organization in any way, shape, or form. So if you do that, then you have to talk to people about sports. And you see, I do have a few people that would chop about sports along the route every now and again, for real. I got a couple streets where people genuinely like collegiate sports ideas and things like that. So we're just gonna have to go through. I deliver in a place neighborhood called Little Italy. Nice restaurants. People love that day in the life of someone that work. They talk iPhone 8 talking sports outdoors. I can dig it. Hey, at the same time, you got. Well, I'm a workshop it because, like I said, since I walk, and we are gonna give it a try. Both of my hands are always occupied, so you would see it from the same lens that I see it. You're gonna walk the streets like you me. You're gonna see the stairs and all the other type stuff, minus people's names. That type ish. We gonna work on it. Like I said, I might want to make sure that I'm not much of a person to care about phones. I got I'm team Android, but I might want to upgrade the phone or something like that so I can make sure we got some good quality out there. I don't want to drag ass and not be ready. But, the Christmas time, the holiday season is coming up. The weather is something that is a bit integral when we talk about certain sports being played. It lends itself to letting you know that certain sports seasons are there, and all of those types of things really kind of work out for you. Let's see if we got anything left out here when we talk about Doug, because these, before we got totally deviated, these are some serious risk that could happen from Adderall or the use of. And so it leads me to still wonder exactly what was going on in the final days. But serious risk for the use of these things right here. Cardiovascular problems, i.e. a heart attack or stroke, so some ischemia of some sort. Psychiatric issues, psychosis, manias, aggressions, and we already talked about certain things manifesting themselves later on in life in terms of the early onset of the dementias, schizophrenias, and so on and so forth. The toe goat, Georgie. Hey, so the toe goat told some things right down the street from the post office. I work at 55th. Seizures, circulation problems. He did become unresponsive in the back seat. Should that circulation have happened in a cardiovascular capacity? Growth suppression in children, dependency and addiction potential. Top already talked about it. Oftentimes, doctors prescribe you things, and the patient themselves become addicted to what is being prescribed, and that can be a fine line to toe. So it is important that we always, one, have constant communications so that if I am started on a certain level of something, maybe I might need to have it titrated or cut down, reduced, whatever the word we want to use, as opposed to staying on the same capacity because it may not be healthy for me. So that's when transparency and the need to talk about things that may be going on with us is imperative. Any pre-existing health issues, mental health issues, so on and so forth. Those things are real important to talk about, especially when we talk about being unk and everything. If we don't got children, it's about and we're in the thought process of making babies, fellas. I want to make sure, one, the person I'm procreating with might not have any mental health issues in her family, or I might want to test certain length of time back. I might want to test my own family to find out what's going on, so I can look into known likelihoods or possibilities, percentage-wise, of what I could be possibly exposing somebody to. One of the reasons that I am not a biological father is because my wife is older than me by a couple years, and by the time I hit a financial footing where I thought a child was suitable, not having the knowledge that places like SBC, Kevin Samuel, so on and so forth would give you insight into, because I had a silent stepfather. Nobody had ever told me what he actually practiced, and I didn't observe what he practiced because my mother was younger. Shame on me. Nonetheless, the biological clock is a real thing. Mental health issues, the older you get in terms of who you procreate with and at what stage in life, your physical health and things like that all contribute to what could be potential for an elevated risk for mental health or developmental disabilities. So those things are something that we always have to kind of take into consideration. Adderall in the sports context, as we know, is a banned substance. It's prohibited by most professional sports leagues in football, basketball, baseball, the Olympics, and in collegiate sports. It's considered a PED. So, like I said earlier, was Doug using it because he actually had some sort of ADHD or narcolepsy or anything like that as a diagnosis? Or was Doug using it as a edge to keep himself at top peak once he signed his new money deal? If he actually had ADHD, my understanding, according to what I've researched, is that it requires a TEU or TUE. I mean, so that's a therapeutic use exemption, meaning they would already understand he has diagnoses. He has the diagnoses on paper. I have a medical prescription for said thing, and this is being utilized totally in a therapeutic and medicinal purpose, not for recreational or PED use. Even if it did, in conjunction or in tandem, still give you enhanced performance, it would be permissible if medically necessary. And so that's the part why most athletes oftentimes don't have the paperwork to verify this, and that's where it goes. Why athletes might misuse this is for increased energy and alertness, enhanced focus during competition, reduced fatigue, weight loss effects if they're trying to drop weight, improve reaction time. He's a pass catching back, so that may have been something that can give him a decided advantage, or like they say, just a competitive advantage overall. Illegal and unethical. Best sports writing of all time, and it talked about how many players were doped up to stay in the game. Yes, and the NFL and all leagues are dirty in this regard. This is what I mean. Chelsea. Frank Thomas. I'm a Cubs fan, so I got a bias. Let's start there. Frank Thomas is in the Hall of Fame, and I think of Frank Thomas as a very average or mediocre type of player. That's I'm being a bit dismissive to him, a bit disrespectful, slightly, but I just like to say it because I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. I think he's very good, but not Hall of Fame. Nonetheless, in Frank's days, they took something called a greenie or an upper. Greenie or upper, I think it's like a caffeine pill times 30. Just like George said with the Adderall, keep them up for 48 hours straight. These pills are used when they had, back-to-backs, when they had road trips and so on and so forth. They popped these like Skittles. Fast forward to, I want to say 1998. Was that the year of McGuire and Sosa? I would like to say. The summer of swing, greenies and uppers became illegal in baseball. Frank Thomas retired in 2000, I'd like to say. So of his entire career, only 2 years would a drug that he knowingly and admittedly uses for about 15 years of his career, now it's illegal. So now you would be banned for using said substance. But in his era, it was something that said around like, breath mints. So he is a Hall of Famer, and he is using or was using performance enhancing drugs. So that's why they always give you the understanding that sport in itself is always to gain a competitive advantage. And in gaining that competitive advantage, they will read, do almost anything to stay ahead of the competition. So literally, read another book from Joe Namath. That's right. A whole bunch of things like that. It's like, I understand how they look at those things. I hold no grudge against anybody for using these PEDs, and I wish they would regulate them in a way that just totally gives them understanding of what the contraindications or the prognosis could be from you using those things. But what they won't do is tell them that because it's not part of big business, so I can't sell you pharmaceutical, and that won't work. My boy got mental issues, playing on time, holding the ball, panicking for nothing. Is it only him or any other second year quarterback still developing right now? T Miles, let me know. Because last time I checked, you got a couple metrics where he in the bottom of the league, and those are numbers. But please explain to me. Let's go through Caleb's mediocre stats. Let's go through K. Hey, in case you don't know, Chelsea, T Miles is a Bears fan. He's just not a Caleb fan, like so many. As referenced by my boy. It's cool. I'm with it. Caleb is my boy because he my quarterback. So 1,351 yards. Drake May is the only quarterback of all the quarterback of Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, Caleb, Penix, McCarthy. Of all of them, Drake is the only person that I think is on a continuous arrow. Meaning I don't know that I've seen many down performances. However, I will reserve my judgment on Drake until he actually plays against what people will classify as good competition. Because nobody says, and Caleb got 1,351 yards, nine tutties, and 3 interceptions. Now hold on. This is what I want to check out for you real quick, T Miles. Where's my boys at? Where you at? There you go. Patriots playing the Browns. Now, Caleb holding on the ball too long with the O-line. Nope. The O-line is playing perfect. Caleb's not holding on to the ball too long. Caleb don't take sacks at all. Chelsea. So those are things that happened last year. Those are not the issues that Caleb is struggling right now, in my estimation, with. He's still learning the process. Going past his first and second reads at times. He still has a bit of hero ball in him where he does want to scramble and make too much happen on a play when he can take the easy. And at times, I would think that his feet, he's still playing hurried at times. But the way in which they talk about it is that he got no, with 1,350 yards, 9 tutties, and 3 picks, with one less game than Drake May, who has 1,744 yards. Great. 12 tutties, two picks. Now let's go through this real fast. Drake May has played, and I admit, kudos to beating the Bills. Drake May has played the Tennessee Titans, the New Orleans Saints, the Carolina Panthers, and lost to the Steelers. The Tennessee Titans, the New Orleans Saints, the Buffalo Bills, the Carolina Panthers, and the guys that we just talked about. And now they will play the Browns. Please explain to me who Drake May has, since we always want to say that about Caleb. That's the first thing everybody would tell me. Well, who did they beat? They ain't beat nobody. They 4-2. They ain't beat nobody. Who did Drake beat the Bills? Tell me who else. And right now the Bills are playing bad football. They done lost like at least 2 straight. Right? So I understand why people have negative things to say because Caleb has areas to improve upon. Caleb is week to week improving. If he was not improving, I would be just as panicked as everybody else about the things that he's not mastered yet. But not mastering versus improving in weekly, and take this with a grain of salt because somebody going to be literal and be like, every week his completion percentage don't improve. I'm talking about playing the position on the whole. Every week, he had, last week was a noticeably, you're supposed to be who on your schedule, but when Caleb beating who on the schedule, nobody talks about it. Drake May is responsible for I say of the 5 wins they got, he's responsible for 3 of them right now. I will say Caleb is only responsible for, let's say, 2 at best. And because the fourth quarter comeback, in terms of getting your team down the field to do anything, when it's a tight game, you're responsible for it. You got your team in position to do it. Even if you didn't have the best game for yourself, with the exception of the last game where you won by the most points, but you did the least to help the team win. What I'm saying is you're supposed to beat everybody in your schedule, but everybody talk about how much of a world beater Drake is because of who he's beating, and he's played one more game, so he got about 350 more passing yards than Caleb right now, and we act like Caleb is playing bad. He's not playing great, but he's on game 7 this week. Everybody tell me how good the Commanders are, but we beat them and it don't mean nothing. Jaden was playing, but it don't mean nothing. Last year, Jaden had similar stats to. The only thing that Jaden did better last year than Caleb, statistically, you have more rushing touchdowns. You have slightly, not eons. Caleb had 581 rushing yards. He had more rushing yards and a higher completion percentage. He passed for 37 more yards than Caleb last year. The only thing Jaden did last year that is more noticeable or pronounced was have a winning team, which is very important. But he didn't play lights out. C.J. Stroud had a rookie year to remember. People will talk about Jaden Daniels like his 35. He didn't have 3,600 yards. Like his 3,500 yards was lights out. Well, he didn't help in that one game with turnovers. I didn't even mention the Cowboy game, so we'll go with that. Nonetheless, are we trying to find ways to make your quarterback not be improving? He helped. That's what he's supposed to do right now. Until he learn how to take over games, he's gonna keep helping. Don't be a detriment to your team. And thus far, I can't tell you he's been a detriment to his team. Can you tell me that, T. Miles? Because last year, at times, he was a detriment to us. I.e. the 68 sacks. Can you tell me he's a detriment? No, Chelsea, I agree wholeheartedly. T. Miles discredits everything he does because he's not playing what he classifies as lights out. I didn't say we was winning because of him. Did I not say he did nothing to lose the game? Don't not answer the question. I did not say are we winning because of Caleb. I said he is not doing anything to lose. We're not winning in spite of him. What is he doing? What is he doing that we have to win in spite of him? Go. He turning the ball over? The running game is good for 2. The running game is good for 2 weeks. 2. Not 6. The running game is good. Do it for 2 weeks. Exceptional. 2 weeks got us in the top 8. But 2 weeks before that, Chelsea, we were 31st in both stopping the run and running the ball. But now, this week, we 8th in the league. That tells you about blips right now. What about 100 passing yards? I'm missing how that was finna lose you a game. What are we talking about? I said, what did he do to lose you games? Right now, if you want to call him a game manager, you can. Last year, he wasn't that at this point. So, again, I ask, What is he doing to lose you games since we win it in spite of him? I don't care what you expect. You trying to conflate arguments. Your expectation has nothing to do with his actual progression. Is he progressing week to week? You keep trying to tell me about what you want him to be. Two things can be true. I understand you want him to be better, look better, so it make you feel better. I'm asking you, is he getting better week to week so that I know that he is going to be at a point of improvement at the end of the year? Because according to what your coach has told me already, he's only not played well in one game. That was the last one. Other than that, he's played perfectly fine. You want 4 touchdowns a game. That don't happen. Let's go through the games. Quiet, Cash. No. Absolutely not, sir. Nobody wants you. Nobody talking to you. Come here. Come. Nobody's talking to you. Come here. So let's go through this. Every game except 2 this year, you're responsible for more than 2 touchdowns. Don't tell me about without your turnovers, sir. Do you got 3 phases of football? Because last time I checked, there's a whole bunch of teams got turnovers. Take everybody's turnovers away. Everybody, if you're a football fan, take your turnovers and throw them in the garbage. If your team got turnovers, take them and don't count them for nothing. And find out what your record is. You sound crazy. You won't win shit with him playing like this, but we won 4 games. We 4-2, playing like what? Explain that to me. For the life of me, I really don't get what you saying. You are 4-2, but you ain't gonna win shit with him playing like this. How is he playing? Because he's had 1 bad game. How many great games he's had? I don't say none. He's had no great games. He's had 1 really good game. He's had 1 bad game out of 6. What are we talking about? You can't win with your quarterback playing bad 1 time out of 6 games. Make that make sense. Because I think you combing through numbers way too much. Last year you lost 9 games by 1 possession. You know why? Because your team wasn't creating no damn turnovers and nothing else. You know who team was? The Commanders, the Lions, and everybody else. Do your job, which is to put it in the end zone. They're not doing it as effective as they need to the last 2 weeks or anything else. It sounds crazy that because you want him to be at some rate that is a hindrance to you. Your team is not being held back in a sense that you are losing when everybody is still developing. 3 weeks ago, your defense was absolute trash, right? Tell me seriously, you had confidence in the defense 3 weeks ago. Did you? Because I'm going to say you lying if you did. The team is making progress every week, including your quarterback. I can want in one hand, I can defecate in the other, and I can see which one fills up the fastest. I understand that people want him to be better right now. What you want is not being fair to the development that he is making. I wanted them to be better last year. As a whole, they sucked. They hampered him and everybody else. This year, you have a brand new system, and 6 games into that system, you don't look like you're not grasping that system. So I'm not understanding what it is that you want. You can take stats from Jared Goff through 6 weeks, and he was in the league for 5 years before he played for Ben Johnson. And tell me about his stats and everything else. Because we have no context of anything. We want instant gratification about nothing. And the moment you don't get it, you mad. When the defense play bad, we lose. Guess what? The defense played lights out for 3 quarters in the first game. And you lost. You got the only team in the league. How many defensive touchdowns do we get, T. Miles? I'm waiting for you to answer the question first. I know the answer, but I want you to give it to me. G Hunter, how you feeling today, man? Let me know how many defensive touchdowns we got. Chat, since T Miles won't tell me how many touchdowns we got on defense, we have 1 defensive touchdown. We got 1 defensive touchdown, everybody. Okay? Walk with me down this street and tell me what we complaining about. We got 1 defensive touchdown, yet we do lead the league in turnovers. We got 1 score off of these. We are top 10 in the league in scoring. We are top 8 in rushing. Let's go to our passing too. Hold on. NFL team passing stats 2025. You keep talking about mediocre, bro. Why? What are we not understanding? You want exceptional. He's playing average. Okay. So what? If this is week 14 and he playing average, then I'm with you, bro. But today, 6 games in, let's look at it. Passing. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We 22nd in passing with 1 less game than everybody else. Like I said, you 10th in scoring, and it's not with your defense. And you are the only team in the league, might I add, that has scored 20 plus points in every game. Like, you're the only team in this whole football league that got every game you play, you score 20 plus points in. Of those games, you got 1 of them where the defense scored a touchdown. And you're going to tell me because the defense create turnovers and you score points off turnovers, that's the only reason we's going to win. Because otherwise, you don't score. That's a lie. You don't know where those drives going to come from. You play 1 less game than most of those teams in front of you. Right? Did I not tell you that 2 weeks, just 2 weeks took us from 31st to 8th in rushing? So that tells you what 1 week can do. You missing a whole week of games. That matters. When I played 7 games and you played 6, it might matter if I want to be comparative. Just to me. No, most of my fan base is either totally impatient, knowing you and watch Mitch Trubisky, Justin Fields, in the last 7 years, you don't watch both of them play, and you're going to tell me you don't know what good versus bad quarterback play is. So that's insane to me that our eyes, everybody said they want to use an eye test, our eye test is failing us when we don't see that this dude is making improvements week to week. We got to think. Last year he was a rookie. He didn't take a lot of plays from under center. This year, he under center. He diagnosed some plays. His line in front of him is better. And his decision making is getting better. Is it great? No. But just like I told him, out of all the quarterbacks we just talked about, only one of them is on the constant
uptick right now, and he's not just soaring. And that's Drake May. He gave me one name out of all of them. He didn't go to Jaden or nobody else because everybody up and down. But he only fixated on Caleb not getting, ain't throwing 300 a game. And that's, I'm not saying I don't want you to be better. I'm saying I know you are getting better every week. So progressively, I want more from you, but I'm not hurt that 6 weeks into a brand new system and almost a brand new playing style that you should have everything figured out. That is the insane part to me, not the expectation. Just like my cousin, for example, expects us, T-Miles. He expects us to win 7 games this year. How many games you predict us to win this year? Because me and him different in our expectation on the record this year. He said we're going to win 7. A 2-game improvement from last year. What do you say? Because my minimum expectation is 10 games. And I guess what I will allow us to both have is that as insane as you might think my expectation of them having 10 games, no, I don't want to hit on that bullshit about somebody being hurt. Everybody, injuries, our defense and offense been hurt and everything else. Injuries happen as part of the game. That was one of the risks that they had with Jaden. That's nice. I said up and down. Don't try to give me context now about up and down. Just because he been hurt, he played bad when he wasn't hurt. He ain't just played great, and then when he was hurt, he was playing bad. He ain't had up and down all season. And last year, like I said, he threw for 3,500 yards. That wasn't phenomenal. His completion percentage had people in a daze, and he is far more accurate. He will be, I believe, over the course of his career, be more accurate than Caleb. I won't ever try to. This ain't a piss on Jaden contest. This is a paint the picture that all of them have their struggles, and all of them are progressively improving on their games and crafts overall. And because we have a binocular lens on Caleb, because he's not being compared to everybody in the league, because that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to compare him to the top tier quarterbacks of the league in terms of what is happening with winning. But last time I checked, and I hate to make the comparison because I believe that he ain't that Jalen Hurts is good for his system, and do what you got to do to win. I will take my quarterback development week to week, knowing that he is progressively getting better. Also, understanding that my coach is vastly different than the person who was there last year, so he gives me total confidence that he said after the bye week, he would know how to better use his offense and the run game would be fixed, and he did. No, you're going off your expectations, but you still ain't telling me how many games you expect us to win. You said 13? Oh, you said 13 wins. So I don't think there's this many teams that's out here slowing us down to getting away from that. Even if you want to be that boisterous at your wins, I think that's a little lofty. But I mean, we'll go with it. I can ride your crazy train right there way better than I can ride you saying Caleb is the way you phrase it. I won't say you said it because I can't go back. But the way you would paint the picture is that Caleb has made no progression this year, and it's a waste of a pick. That's what I get from your statements, because your expectation, I guess, is like 300 yards and 2 touchdowns a game or something like that. Like, I'm trying to find out what your expectation is that will quantify doing what's needed to be done. Because, hell, by that proxy, I'm supposed to expect more out of your top 10 overall tight end, but your coach uses him how you want to use him. And I can't be mad at it as long as you're winning. When you don't win, I can critique everything you do. No. There's far more criticisms that I can go about when you don't win. The only difference is not as many sacks. That's awareness and not holding on to the damn ball. And that's not the only difference. Yes, does he not see everything? Correct. But he sees more of the field than he saw last year. He is able to diagnose plays way better than he did last year. He is making decisions way more decisively. He is ripping the ball down the field and not being reluctant or hesitant about that right there. He's not skittish about making deep throws. Is he seeing all of the open players yet? No. Does he have a tendency to lock in on people? Yes, but his footwork has gotten better. He is even to his own detriment last week. He should have run more last week. Instead, he stayed more committed to the pocket and did not run. It made less accurate throws because of it. He was not doing that last year. But okay. This is really what it boils down to, T Miles. Me and you diametrically disagree on what progression is for a quarterback standpoint. I see and know that he is making progress week to week, as is the team. The team is winning. He has not been a detriment. Okay, Jaden had 3,500 yards last year. What is it now? What does that mean? So what was the difference last year? Both of them had 3,500 yards. Go. Is he on pace for 3,500 yards this year? No, I say he wasn't. I'm talking about things he wasn't doing last year in terms of seeing the field, making progressions in his reads and throws. I ain't saying shit about throwing passing yards. Where did 3,500 come from? That's what I'm trying to figure out. What context is that? That's like you just threw that out there. We talking about actual tangible things that he's doing different than last year. You threw out 3,500 yards. I'm trying to understand it. But it is crazy that people that are not Bears fans can see things that Bears fans can't see. But maybe that's through a lens of being jaded, being constantly disappointed, and seeing bad so much that you're not convinced when you're seeing good. That's what I'm. That's I think that's the best way for me to. He did none of those things last year, but that's the best way for me to see it. We got Stockholm Syndrome in Chicago. I don't want us to continuously have it. For whatever reason, there are fans' minds that I can't change about this. They won't ever see. What are you talking about, G Honda? You and T Miles can have a show together. Or realistic, what are we talking about? That's why people don't read all the comments, because some of them don't make sense. They're just broken up. Rely on other people's eyes when you don't see the game well. Rely on the words of those who can point you in the right direction when it comes to not seeing disappointment, because all you've seen is disappointment. So anything that looks remotely different, you're not even able to focus your eyes in on it. Know that I do not see a complete 180 in Caleb's development this year as a Bear fan. But I do see about a 90 degrees so far. The elbow is turned, and we almost turning the other way, i.e. the corner. At least from the things that I get to see. While there are several things that need to be polished up on that particular end, when we get back to a more serious subject, we do realize that we have to do our due diligence to answer these particular questions. Is mental health an issue amongst athletes? Let's get away from their performance for a while to get back to a slight bit of seriousness here when we talk about things. Because we talk about football, and I love to talk about football as a fan, going back and forth about the X's and O's and the things that bring me passion and joy. The tragedy that is suffered and brought about quite possibly by a game that I root actively for said greatness. I know me and T disagree on a lot of things about the path of the quarterback, but we don't disagree on the success we want for the team and the things that we desire as a sport fan. And we just talked about these expectations that both of us have that may be a bit heavily lauded or unfair to have that expectation, because in real life, outside of sport, it is incumbent upon me to understand that you have expectation of very few people in life. And that leads to less disappointment. Humans are prone to error, and things are bound to go wrong, i.e. what goes up must come down, is the adage. How often do we think mental health is an issue amongst athletes? Do we appropriately, or do we think the cops appropriately responded to the incident? I.e., once you got a call about somebody who was in medical distress and someone who was breaking and entering, did we call the proper medical authorities to aid us in said apprehension of said person? Did the Bucks, back in the day, like I said, I don't know if the PED use is the way they would characterize it, but I don't know if the Adderall use was something that he actually needed in terms of a prescription. But did the Bucks fail him in the NFL on the whole by not investigating his mental health issues when he failed that PED test? Did we? I know they talk about the therapeutic use exemptions. Did they dig deep into whether or not he could produce one? Did they do any tests after? I know Doug had a concussion or so, possibly in the NFL. Did they do any other tests to see what further things were needed with an independent neurologist as they do now? Do you believe his family did enough in the beginning? Like I said, they called the cops to report both the distress and the break-in. And so you wonder, were they doing something in some ways to try to short-termly protect themselves financially, but not have him committed to a financial institution, in which case maybe his monies might be, assets may be frozen, power of attorneys and things like that may be a contentious battle, and it may freeze up the livelihood that they were experiencing? Yes, I cannot believe the way it was explained right here, G Honda. Let's go back to real quick for you, just to recap. In the beginning here, the report here says that they got a person that was disoriented and overwhelmed, and he broke into a neighbor's house down the street. Also, it tells you that while they responded to this break-in, they took him into custody. He became unresponsive, and paramedics were called after he was taken into custody. So why would he become unresponsive? He was already disoriented when he committed said break-in. So to have a break-in that correlates with him being somewhat disoriented, not to mention that his family has already indicated that he's suffered from mental health challenges throughout his professional and social career, you do wonder specifically what, if any, mental health diagnoses he was ever studied for or diagnosed with, or to be frank, that we come down to at the end, was CTE a part of this particular issue? And at that point, it is still a mental health disorder, in the fact that traumatic brain injury of all sort lends itself to developmental disability and mental health not operating at optimal health in terms of your mental health wellness. So we cannot overlook the fact that this is not a random incident where a guy just wakes up from home feeling a bit disoriented, not in the proper context or understanding of what was going on. And so what you want to know, like when we talked about this too, G Honda, yes, we do want to see the autopsy to know what types of drugs were in your system. But as I know from working in mental health, sometimes if he was, let's say he was prescribed any actual mental health drugs, that in conjunction with alcohol or street drugs could very well hinder you, could be the protagonist behind his behaviors, or so on and so forth. So I'm not ruling out any of those other things to be upon further review as far as the autopsy goes. I'm not excluding those things from being potential. I'm simply saying that his family alludes to him having mental health issues far before this. He had a contract voided for a PED that is a known prescribed drug for someone who have what we classify as a developmental or a cognitive disability. And so when you look at it that way, he was experiencing some problems in the back of the car. I do believe those problems to be cardiovascular, but I wonder from what actual substance, because they might try to smear that guy and say he was on some illegal substance, when in fact it could have been something a bit more traumatic. With that being said, I don't want to speculate too deep into a G Honda simply because it is a sensitive situation for the family and for authorities, and because I want to give a fair opportunity for the family to totally understand what took place, how to properly grieve it, and how to have any secondary happenings as a result if in fact anything was not above board. There are questions on all aspects of it, and that's why we got to those questions. Did the cops do everything appropriately? Did his family do enough? Do we believe that this is not involving foul play? Those are all questions that we can fairly ask when it comes to the situation, because 36 is a very young age to perish, and if we want to look at it that way, we just have to totally buy into the understanding that there could have been several factors at play. Which ones are necessarily there are not known to us yet, but we would do ourselves a disservice if we don't look at everything or look under every stone, turn over every stone, as they might say, so that we can find out all the things that could potentially have happened in this particular situation, because the autopsy report or the media or whomever does the report will give us what they're going to give us, and at that point it will have to be in some regards accepted, because that's what the autopsy would be. I guess it's what it will report, even whether or not be factual or anything. Nonetheless, we will have an opportunity to do an update to find out if anything further comes of this particular situation for Doug. Nonetheless, we have come to the conclusion. R.I.P to you, Muscle Hamster. 89 to 2025 is a very young age to see the earth and leave the earth. Nonetheless, leave your comments below. Do we think more studies have to be done into mental health post-career or during career even? Let me know your thoughts about it. Let me know your comments about the video in itself. What other things could we do as a review? Hit the mailbox up, mailboxsports3@yahoo.com. Continue to support the stream. Mailbox Sports 3 is the cash app. Anytime we feel like it, hit me up in the Discord as well, so that we can go over any sports topics, Chelsea, that we might want to collab on. We might do a lighthearted. I've been getting down the rabbit hole of soapbox races. Maybe we'll do a soapbox Sunday. A little kickback so that we don't have to always talk my team. We will further investigate the days coming up to the mail route. We'll figure out, workshop the name, G Honda. We might do some live streams in real life while we walk these streets to get this watch time going. We are on grind time. We are less than 30 subscribers away from 500. We know 1,000 is even further away, but we got first things first. That's where it's going to start. Other than that, it has been a pleasure hanging out with anybody and everybody this afternoon. G Honda, Chelsea, Erica, let me see, T Miles. I always love the banter with you guys. Let me make sure I ain't miss nobody else up top. I know George came and popped with me. Top Pro came in. Anybody I missed from the very beginning? Let me see. If not, Mr. Raquel, how did I forget? With that being said, like G Honda said, hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Share the content. Share the message. If we got things to talk sports or sports related, feel free to pull up and see what we got in the mailbox. Till next time, I will talk to you guys later on. Enjoy the rest of the day. And we out of here.